Stage fright. It can be paralyzing. It can even end a career. Our panel knows intimately the effects of stage fright and what can be done about it. Welcome to the Pop Life Bar. Nice to see you all.
Hi.
Hi.
So, how would you describe stage fright?
Normal.
Normal, just like an everyday part of life?
Standard fare, but it depends on the day. But usually it's, well, in this case, it's, half of the fingers go paralyzed. They're numb.
Oh, wow.
Even now. And it begins around, for me, it's evening performances usually, and at 3 p.m. I can't really eat anymore.
Wow.
It's exciting, and you just have to plan for it and normalize it, and you channel it. And I think we'll get into that. But what is it to you?
I think about it a lot because I perform a lot, and it affects me differently for every show. In the past, when I did bigger dance performances, it always felt like my energy was just collecting in my system and just building up and building up and building up.
Hours before the show.
Yeah, it's like almost like a drain getting plugged with energy, and there's so much pressure in that you just you don't know how it's all going to come out. It just feels stuck, and so it's just like I used to just sort of mentally be like, okay, as soon as I get on stage, all this energy is going to my audience. They get it all.
That's what's so good.
Yeah, yeah.
So good,
I remember that with me, with stage fright, one of my biggest moments was when I was singing in front of an audience and this hot searing heat went up my arm and I could feel it going to my heart as I'm singing just this one song. I was a guest at a friend's gig and it's just going through my arm and I thought I was gonna collapse. My head was spinning, I thought I was gonna collapse. But to me, I realized later that stage fright is something where you're feeling so vulnerable and so naked in front of an audience, and you're so worried about what other people think that you forget the reason you're up there.
Yeah.
You forget
and you
why
often
you're
forget your lyrics too.
And you forget your lyrics. Absolutely.
That is a fear. Oh,
Is that
such a fear. It's never happened to me, but you always think
Oh,
it
it
is.
has happened to me.
Right when you're about to go on stage, you're like, oh my gosh, what is coming up? And for me, it's like God knows what language it is because it's opera.
I'm pretty sure
It's never happened.
the opening
Oh my gosh.
song of my set before, when I used to tour a lot, was "This Is the Love," and I played over 70 shows by this point.
Yeah.
Step on stage at a giant festival. No, I can't remember a
and you
single
just
lyric.
do one of these
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, and then it sort of hit me, and I'm pretty sure I sang "This Is the Glove" or something I was like, "This is the glove."
Yeah.
And I was like, what? And then I learned, that was where I learned you just have to make up the lyrics when that happens.
Oh, I just
And
keep
then-
going. Just
yeah,
keep
your
going.
audience was like, I really like that new interpretation of that song. You're like, trust me.
But do you think that your nerves, and they physically manifest themselves, do you think that your stage fright and nerves comes from a fear of, well, is it vulnerability? Is it that the last show was so great I have to top it this time? What is it exactly, do you think?
So many of those things. It's all of those things. Yeah. I mean, there's the expectation, the level to maintain this level of perfection. In opera, it's especially, people notice because this music has been around for some time, and they've heard all of the greatest singers in the world and in history perform it on record and in the most perfect situation. I mean, recorded and edited.
Yeah.
And then they come to a live performance, and yes, we do want to make it as perfect as possible, but things happen, and sometimes exciting things happen.
What kind of thing do you mean by exciting things happen?
Well, sometimes when something goes wrong, even if it's these incredibly rehearsed events, somebody will do something different, something will break, a prop will start rolling down the stage, and everyone becomes
So by
a little
exciting, you
bit
mean
more...
things going
Yeah,
wrong.
things going- yes. I'm trying to be
I'm
positive.
like, oh, yeah. The day you hit a note you never thought you could hit.
You're like, oh no, that's usually figured out
Oh,
long
no,
before.
okay, yeah.
But otherwise you wouldn't get the gig.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I think stage fright is such a huge thing, is because it's especially with singing, you want to try to be so perfect, right? And so if something goes wrong, even if it's beyond your control, you're just afraid of what other people might think about, and so in your head the world is collapsing, but really it isn't.
Yeah.
And I know with opera, I mean, I love opera, but I'm terrified. And it scares me to think that it's something on my bucket list that I want to do one day. So I know with stage fright, my stage fright would come full throttle. But as a singer, I know when I'm imperfect, that's usually when I'm most vulnerable, and that's usually when I sing my best, is when I'm not focused on being so perfect.
Right.
Because the audience is really forgiving for me. I don't know about opera, but I know
Well, opera
the audience
feels
is
like it's a different situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not so forgiving.
Yeah.
But you know, everybody that complains about it, I don't remember them. No, I'm just kidding. I'm like, have I? No, yeah. Life goes on, and it's not brain surgery.
Yeah.
You know, we all try our best. And
Yeah, I think stage fright really is when you get stuck in your own head.
Oh yeah.
And you're just sort of out of your body.
How do you get? How do
how
you get into
out of
the
that?
zone?
I actually find like working out.
Yeah.
I literally will like do well. I used to. I mean, I'm coming by very different now because I've been through a car crash and everything.
Yeah.
But I used to do like push-ups and sit-ups and anything I could to just get my energy out of my head and into my body.
Right.
And it really, really does work very well. Balancing actually works really well, just like balancing on a balance board.
Yeah.
And that's probably part of you having to put the balancing, put your entire thought process into not falling over.
Yes,
That's where it is.
that's
So
exactly
you're taking
what
your
it is.
mind off
Yeah.
the situation that's scaring you and putting it into something that's very immediate right in that moment.
Yeah, because also where you're focusing your energy in your body, that's where your blood flow goes.
Right.
So all that blood goes out of your head, and so you just don't have enough energy to use all those thoughts anymore.
I heard the same thing about standing on your head.
Oh.
It's actually the same, like when you say balancing, I heard this, you get that same sort of process when you're standing on your head. It helps with, I guess.
I guess so.
Yeah.
I do walk on my hands, and it does feel good.
you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe
But
later.
not during a show.
we
Like,
can
Oh yeah.
show us.
Oh yeah. During the shows, anything is possible in my show.
Do you ever have stage fright in everyday situations? Do you ever feel a
More
little?
so.
Yeah.
Now?
I feel more stage fright with people in general life than I do
Yeah.
on the stage.
In one-on-one situations.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
I don't know
Small
why.
groups mainly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that true? Yeah.
Small new groups.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am the person, considering what I do for a living, I talk to people on television and the radio for a living. I'm terrible at parties. If you don't
At
talk to
party?
me, I will not talk to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm the same
Good to
as
know.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And I think part of it is stage fright almost. You know, part of it is shyness and stage fright or whatever it might be. But put a microphone in front of me and you
you're
know,
like,
I can
"Hey."
go for it. Yeah.
But then you're not you. That's the other thing that's easier. I never play myself. When I have to play myself in
Right.
day-to-day life, that's so much harder.
Right.
But it's much easier to go out, and that's why auditions are so hard, because you're still you. Or rehearsals are often more challenging for me than actual performances. Performance days, it's like, okay, you get the energy of the day, and it's opening night, and it's like, oh gosh, everyone's there. And then you just channel it, game face it, and you go out there and you destroy it and entertain the audience, and that's all that matters. It's not about you. But in these other situations, it's you. And
well,
you're you. You play you all the time.
Or
Or
are
do you
a
find
sort of a
persona-
character on stage?
I think for me, and it's very different actually what I do on stage because I'm not playing a set role and I can change at any point. I can do whatever I want. Which is very different than an opera.
Yeah.
Like, God forbid you sing the wrong note or you can't change.
Improvise.
Yeah,
No
you
love
can't
and
change an
glove.
opera.
Yeah.
But how do you have like, because
So
for me, I have a
personas.
switch or something that helps me sort of get out of, like, even though I'm still being me, it's sort of like the part of me that is the performer. Do you have something like that where you,
the persona that comes up.
like a different persona than, say, if you're with your family or something?
Yeah, you know, it's funny because I feel different on stage, very different. But I actually feel more at home in myself. I think in general life, like, people tell me I'm kind of crazy because I'm big and I'm larger than life,
Right.
and arms are flailing all over the place. And I'm also a very, very clinically shy side. I was a very, very shy child, and so I have these two very polar opposite sides and not much in between. And people kind of want you to be that in-between person in everyday life. So at home, I become this really secluded nerd, and
Great.
And on stage, I'm just like my explosive side. But there's no rules on stage with me. I can literally be whoever I want. I can go knee sliding or crowd surfing, or in this case, I'm touring with a ukulele.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's very different. It's the folk
Yeah.
side of me,
And more exposed, too, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's
'Cause
more
more
exposed.
acoustic.
way more
Later,
vulnerable,
yeah.
way more exposed. It's allowing me to tell my story in a different way, connect in a different way, and also move the audience in a different way, which is very interesting.
It's more intimate.
Way more intimate.
Yeah.
Which in itself
Yeah.
is the audience sees everything now. It's very raw.
Yeah, and they hear all the flaws. They love it. I actually learned the audiences like when you mess up. It makes you more human.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I
Yeah.
think I didn't become successful as a broadcaster until I began to realize that I didn't have to sound like everybody else that came
Yeah.
before me. When I was myself and stammered a little bit, said the people were like, well, he sounds like a real person
Yeah.
talking, and it made a huge difference to me. How do you teach people to overcome stage fright? Because it is something that is intrinsic with people, I think. John Lennon used to have a physical reaction before he stepped out on stage every single time. The most famous musician in the world, or one of them, still was terrified to perform in front of people. Could you have taught John Lennon how to overcome that?
It probably would have been tough because I'd be so busy admiring him. But
You'd be stage fright just talking to him.
yeah, I'd be terrified talking to him too, absolutely. But I do get singers who are both beginners and advanced who have come to me with, especially I've had people come to me where they've been performing or speaking in front of an audience for years and years, and suddenly it just comes on.
Yeah.
So how do I teach them? What I find is it becomes a bit of a psychological thing. I'm teaching them to look at speaking or singing in a different way than they did before. So what happens is we get so stuck in our heads, and I'm very used to that because I do it myself. We get so stuck in the problem. And so sometimes what the coach does, what I do, is to get you to sort of spin the way you're looking at it. And so what I find is when I actually teach them, I'm actually teaching them to be themselves again.
Right.
They're so focused on trying to be something they're not. And so when I teach, I'm teaching them that it's okay to make the mistake, that it's okay to be flawed. Like you said, when you were in front of the audience and you were flawed, they loved it better. And then when they actually test that out, when they get a chance to test out and they're brave enough, they're like, oh my gosh, it's a whole different story. I go, yeah, you're just being you. It's really just getting it out of people's head that they can be themselves. Or sorry, getting it into their heads that they can be themselves in front of their audience, getting it out of their heads that they don't have to be something they're not.
Right.
Yeah.
That was really well put.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm edumacated.
I'm getting educated right now.
And Amber, you were talking about the stage fright that you suffer from. When does it go away? Does it go away after the first song? Does it go away when they're throwing roses on the stage at the end? Does it ever go away?
Sometimes it depends on. Usually it's by curtain call.
Right, when it's over.
It's over. And one really memorable one for me, and it was a really important one at the Canadian Opera Company, and I only had one performance out of the 9, and so it was my night to
shine.
And that's the hardest thing with this is that with what you're saying about perfectionism and that we strive for this all the time. Perfectionism is so much about us, and everything that we do is not about us.
Right.
No.
Right? And so perfectionism is just about finding praise and like making sure that someone went, great job.
That's right.
And that's all that is, instead of actually expressing something.
I love that you said that because I teach people that they're telling a story, that you're a storyteller. And years you've had people telling stories. And so you're trying to be something like it fit in this box, but really you're forgetting that you're delivering a message, whether you're singing somebody else's song or your own song.
Yeah.
You're delivering a message and so that the next generation learns from that message.
Yeah, so you're just a vessel.
Focus on that rather than, you're a vessel. Focus on that and the performance will come with it, right? But obviously you teach them to perform, but the performance comes with knowing what the message is that you're delivering rather than focusing on the fear of the message.
Yeah, it's amazing.
We have to leave it there. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
What a pleasure to speak to you all. Coming up after the break, faking my way out of a job. Cheers, everybody.
Thank you. Cheers.